This lecture focuses on climate projections for the future. How will the climate look like in 20 years' time, in 50 years' time, in 100 years' time, or in 200 years? And we're talking about relatively short time scales, only a few generations. So this lecture has 3 parts. The first part addresses the question as to why climate models can be used for forecasts. Okay. So why are we confident that the forecasts are accurate? Okay. The second part focuses on emission scenarios, and it's about emissions of greenhouse gases. So if you want to predict climate changes in the future, you need to make assumptions on the amount of CO2 and other greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere. And the last part then looks at climate forecasts of temperature changes, precipitation, soil column, moisture changes, sea level changes, changes in ocean acidification and Arctic sea ice extent, and changes in extreme events. Okay? So let's have a look at models. Okay, how does that work? So why climate models can be used for forecasts? Climate models can be used for forecasts because they are validated against existing data in so-called hindcasts. And here's one example showing you the simulations of many climate models. You know, we're talking about ensemble modeling. Yes, something like more than 50 different climate models. Okay. And what's shown here in this graph is the prediction of the global temperature anomalies from these models, okay, compared with observations. And we have the observations are the black curves, okay. Black curves and the ensemble models and the average of the ensemble simulations are shown here in this curve, and you get a good agreement. Okay, so the model is able to reproduce observations, not perfectly, but on average you get a very good agreement. So now the key is you can use models to play around with them. You can change conditions. For example, you can assume that from the early 1900s that the greenhouse gas levels remain the same in the atmosphere. So you run your model, but restrict the levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. And what you get with climate models, so you use indeed the entire bunch of climate models that are available, you get no significant temperature change. Okay, so this is simulated natural only, which switches off the increase in greenhouse gas emissions. So this makes you confident that these models make a good job, in particular with the inclusion of anthropogenic effects. So just as a summary of that, climate models are able to accurately simulate past climate variations on average. With the addition of anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions, climate models are able to accurately simulate rapid global warming of the past 50 years. So hence climate models are also able to predict future climatic conditions, say on time scales of the next 50 to 150 years or even a little bit longer, based on certain emission scenarios. Okay, so you're confident that these predictions are accurate. Not all details, okay, but give you a very, very good forecast tools. So this already concludes the first part. You won't believe it, but that's already the end of the first part.